Hello, hello, Media Tech community. I'm Christy Whites, CMO of Media Tech, and I'm excited to welcome you back to our second episode of Code is Not a Prerequisite. It's our educational series created with our community partner Imaginnovate, where we dive into the fundamentals that a non-tech founder running a tech startup would need, maybe the pitfalls that you might discover along the way. We know how hard it is running a startup, and we know that it can throw you curveballs and cause you to pivot. And being a founder alone can be hard. And without a tech background, it can be even more complicating, knowing that you have this really good idea and you see it and it's there, you just can't quite put it together. So we want to give you the tools to succeed, whether that's starting or scaling. And so I'd like to welcome our community partner and educator for today, Satish Kamsali with Imaginnovate. Satish, welcome.
Hey, Christy. Thanks for the brief introduction.
Yes, I'm excited. We're going to be going over everything that you need to really know as a non-tech founder today. And yeah, that's exciting. Like I say it's exciting because I find a lot of this interesting. I like learning things that I didn't know before. I don't necessarily have a code background, but I've been able to teach myself a little bit to be dangerous, which has helped me bring some of my ideas to life. So I'm excited to learn more from you today. Tell us a little bit about you and Imaginnovate for a second.
Awesome. So Marcel, this is Satish Kamsali. So I've been working with Imaginnovate for more than 5 years, and so I did start my career as a mobile application developer, and I did work as a developer, then as a team lead. Then I went across and with my passion to work on startups, I've started pursuing my career as a project manager at Imaginnovate. After that, I became a team lead. So right now, I'm working as a team manager with more than 15 strong professional developers who are enabling the solution services for the startup community. Okay, and it's been a really roller coaster journey, starting from zero on project management and then to become a tech manager. But again, I do love working with the startups. It's where all the innovation happens. It's where the exciting things, all the new trends in the technology we get to explore much faster than our co-part enterprise team does that. So
yeah,
it's really exciting.
That is exciting because you're kind of at the forefront of an idea. You're helping to bring the concept to life, and that to me is the exciting part, because I love the marketing and branding, like figuring out what people like and how they use it. I think that's fun too. So I will bid everyone adieu. I will not take up any more of your time. I'm very excited to learn all the things that we need to know as a non-tech founder. So I will let you take the floor.
Yeah. Thank you. So welcome everyone to another exciting session of our webinar series, Code is Not a Prerequisite to Run a Tech Startup as a Non-Tech Founder. Okay. So in this webinar, we'll be learning about things you should know as a non-tech founder. So let's get started. Okay. So I assume everyone can see my screen. So in this session, we'll be learning about how to research and validate your idea, building your visuals, then setting the ground rules for your startup, and learning the important metrics that you would like to measure for your startup. Okay, starting with the first point, research and validate your idea. So it's all about finding the right spot for your product, because it's going to fit one or the other domain, and it's going to work as a unit in an ecosystem. So you should find the right spot, understand the competitors, and learn the terminology, and also align yourself with the industry standards and approaches. Now, the second part of this topic is validating your idea. It's all about putting your assumptions, theories, and exceptions to test. So jumping in, so to the research part, it's really important that you understand more about the domain, make yourself familiar with the terminologies, make yourself familiar with the common approaches that are followed in the industry, and make sure that you create a relevance of your product in the domain that you would like to serve. Going to the next point, which is knowing about the market. just like any other market, just like any other solution provider, for the startups as well, it is important to analyze what's already happening in the market and what the key players are doing in the market, and how the trends are fluctuating between the market, and what are the key times to release a new product into the market to get the best out of it. Okay. Moving to the third point, learning about more about the target audience, which is learning about the type of users who will be interacting with your product. As a startup, you'll be creating a product, and there will be different types of people, the different characteristics who will be expecting different set of functionalities that you would like to uh, fulfill at some or the other point. Okay. Now that's going to lead you to create a context and the details that you would like to fill in each persona, and start working towards that. Now, just to give you a brief, first suppose if you're working on an apparel company and you would like to start creating an app where you would like to actively promote and sell your products, then it's important to know what's happening in the e-commerce industry. Make sure that you are following the practices that are available already with the existing e-commerce softwares, okay, and provide that as a basic, and then move forward from there with any innovative approach. Okay. Now, knowing about the market, you might want to go ahead and launch the product at a festive season or a particular time where you get a lot of user traction with a limited promotion. Now, knowing about the target audience is going to really help you to understand the tier one audience or the major audience, and fulfill their initial requirements. Okay, so that's going to fill in the study. The next one is identifying the potential customers. Now, most of these startups that we work with, they initially start with B2C customers, business to consumer. But again, there's also the other side of the coin, which is business to business. So learning about business to consumer is typically what a startup gets with. So you work with an idea, you think that's going to work out, you work with individuals, okay, but again, there's a different genre of opportunities that is available on the business to business. Just to give you an example, so we did work with nutritious food startup. So they wanted to provide a nutritious food to the individuals, make their life much more healthier without even doing exercises and other stuff, just providing the best possible food for them on demand purpose. Okay. Now they did start with retail concept in the initial, serving the customers directly, but again, they had an opportunity where they got to explore an option to go ahead and serve a business enterprise where they were allowing their employees to register to this platform at a discounted price. Okay. And the positive effect of that is this particular startup has got thousands of users immediately as they sign up to the business. Okay. Cracking the business to business deals might be take a bit effort taking, but again, it's worth it because you do get a lot of user base at the initials. Okay. Now, business to consumers is also important, so you stay focused. So that startup went ahead and did that, and this was way before any other food commerce has come up. So they have done that, and after that, they also saw potential since the consumers or the employees of that particular enterprise were already linked to the platform. They went ahead and created pay later option for the nutrition food as well, which allowed the consumer to explore that option and deduct the amount from the salary even before the salary is paid. Okay, so these kind of opportunities do emerge in B2B. So that's something that you need to explore. Now that you have understood the domain, you have gotten through the market and understood about the target audience, and you also know about the business to consumer and business to business customers, it's important to onboard the early adopters. That can be family and friends, that can be direct customers, and that can be businesses who would like to do a pilot version with you. So start identifying them, list them, stay in contact, and onboard them for your pilot versions or MVP versions so that they can work with you. Trust me, most of these users will be really happy to promote the startup growth. Okay, so that because that's what they want to do, is get a better product out of the startups. So the next one is understanding the competition. So competition can be of two types. One is a direct competition, where a solution provider is working towards solving the same problem as you do, and they are targeting the same audience. Okay, and then the second type of competition that you might see in the startup is indirect competition, where a solution provider or a startup is working towards resolving the same problem, uh, trying to resolve a different problem, but again targeting the same audience. It's going to have some impact. Okay, so it's important to understand within the domain, within the market, within the region where you would like to serve the customers, the direct and indirect competition. Okay. With that, we'll be going to the second part of this topic, which is validating your idea. Now that you have all these details, it's important to go ahead and start test your idea. When you're beginning with an idea in a startup, you start with a lot of assumptions, theories, and exceptions that are relevant or heard from as a perspective of your family or friends or near and dear. Okay, but again, they don't want to make you feel bad. They would like to encourage you, so they may not give you the 100% of feedback. So go ahead and create the wireframes or do a little bit of research and start sharing your idea with the users who are not related to you, but again, they would like to contribute to the feedback. Okay, so go ahead and start testing your idea. Okay, to do that, it's important to grow your network, share your passion in social networks, and start collaborating with B2C and B2B customers. Okay, most of them will be happy to contribute to the cause that you're working on. So go ahead and approach, create the network with as many people as you can, with as many different personas, different characteristics, so that you can get a complete feedback of how your product will be received at the end once it's live. Okay, and so once you have this network, it's important to make the next point, which is make the right use of your network. So go ahead and start onboarding them for your initial versions of the app. That can be MVP or post MVP versions, and you can start working with them until you go ahead and create a product market fit. Okay, so these feedback will help you. Okay, now once you start sharing your application for the access and let the beta testers go through your application, and they find anything faulty or any issues or any enhancements that you would like to share with you, for that it's really important to build a robust channels for collecting the feedback. So these channels can be simple as a type form, creating a type form, creating a Google form. Okay, so go ahead and do that with this, so that they can communicate all the feedback that can be issues, bugs, enhancements, or difference in the type of implementation that's been done. So this requirement is going to be really useful. Now this brings us to the very last point, which is with the all feedback that you have done while testing your idea. Okay, it's really important to determine whether you are solving the problem of tier 1 target audience. Okay, because these are the audience who are a larger pie of your consumers. So it's really important that you focus on them. Okay, so always make sure that you pay attention to the detail, to the issues that are being faced by the tier 1 target audience, and resolve them. Okay, it's also possible to go ahead and provide a workaround for them until you implement a full-blown change or a module for them in the near future. Okay, with this, we will move into our next topic, which is building visuals. Now that you have everything that you need, you did your domain, you have learned a lot about your domain terminology and all, then you also have tested your idea with the POC or prototypes. Okay, now the next part is, since you have enough information, it's important to share that information in terms of visuals to your team and to the world. Okay, so the next topic is going to cover that on how to build your visuals so that you can share your vision through visuals. Okay, so to do that, it's really important for your team to understand a lot about the domain. Okay, so educate your team on the domain so that they understand and they can find the relevance between the terminologies that are being used in the domain and the approaches that are being used in the domain versus what needs to be done for the startup that you're working on. Okay, so it's really important to keep the team up to date on the domain and industry and the market and the approaches that are being followed. Okay. Moving on to the next point, work on a story that narrates the use case of your product. So as I said, there are different type of users who are going to use your product from a different perspective. Okay, it's important that you start narrating those use cases of the product for your startup and start detailing them to the best possible approach so that you can share with the team and they can go through the details and start finding the technological changes that they can implement over a period of time that will help you ease the user experience. Okay, so one such use case can be so if you are trying to build a nutrition app. Okay, so it's important to keep in mind that your nutrition app can be used by a housewife, it can be used by a doctor, it can be used by a lawyer, or it can be used by any professional. So try to gain as much as information or the feedback from each one of the users, and also start looking into the other part, like how this particular nutrition food is going to be created and served to the customers. Okay, start looking at the sources and talk to them. If that's a restaurant, if that's your own kitchen, business kitchen, then you should have a word with the relevant people and start collecting the details, like what's actually making them to deliver most of their products to the customers in the best possible way in the least possible time. Okay, moving on to the next point, highlight the key pain points and problems that you are trying to address. So as a startup, you do have an assumption or you do have an idea of what the problem is and you're trying to fix it. But again, it's really important to highlight the key pain points and the problems that you're addressing so that your team can start focusing on that and start looking into different directions that they can contribute to. First of all, if you are sharing your key pain points or problems to the team, if that's a designer, he might go ahead and start adding a little bit of relevance in the user experience. Say, first of all, if you are designing an app for kid, and if you can share that you are working on an application for kids and they need help with these sort of things, they need the learning angle to be low to get familiar with the product, then that's something the designer can add value to. So go ahead and share all the key details with your team. If that's a technology team that you're talking to, it will be really helpful for them to understand what you're trying to solve, and they can start exploring different ways to get that implemented in an efficient manner. Okay, so once it's done, so it's also important to go ahead and start creating the user flows and diagrams so that you can convey on the mapping that you would like to do on the data that you would like to collect and the user flows that you want to implement in the platform. That can be a screen wise or in terms of transition or evolving the data in the platform. Okay, so start creating them. It doesn't take much of a time, and you can do that with freely available resources. Okay, so go ahead and spend some time, create the user flows and do the diagrams, and your team can also contribute to that and work with you. Moving to the last point, wireframes can be handy. So most of the non-tech founders do feel it's easy to learn to code, but again, they don't focus on creating the wireframes. So that's something that should be focusing on. So creating a wireframes is really not that hard. So you should start exploring frameworks such as Whimsical, Draw.io, or even a Paint would do. Even a pen and pencil and a white paper would be really handy to draw the wireframes and share that with your team so that you can exactly explain them how you envision your solution to serve the customers. With that, our current topic is completed, and moving to the next one is setting the ground rules. Okay, so for the startups, it's really important to set the ground rules, put a structure to your thoughts, and provide principles that guide your team and outline the organization values. So, as a startup founder, you'll be contributing to a lot of areas that can be marketing, that can be sales, that can be promotion, and that can be finding the right people for the team. And there are a lot of areas that you'll be contributing. But again, it's important to understand that the other team members, the other part of the team, can contribute to their own work, but they cannot contribute to the work that you alone can do, which is growing the business or understanding more about the business and setting the business goals. So that's something that you need to focus on. Okay, and so the people that you hire will be able to do most of the work. So let them do the work that they do best. Okay, and so in this, we'll be discussing on structuring your thoughts, aligning to principles. So it's important that you create principles that guide the team and outline the organization values and align the entire team to those principles so that they don't deviate from their final goals. Okay, it's important to set that. But again, if team is flexible and they would like to contribute to the other skill set or the other discipline, it's totally fine. They can do that. But again, it's important to achieve their final goal, which is set, because that's what is the plan in the initial when you hire them. So it's really important. Moving on to the next point, understand and respect the differences in discipline. Since you are working with a team who are from a different disciplines, so it's really important that you understand that they really have spent a lot of time in those disciplines, and if there's any differences in working on the designs or working on solution in the startup, it's really important for you to understand that uh, they are going to take the best possible step for you to reach to your end goal, because you make it clear for them. But again, making yourself familiarize with what they are trying to explain back to you is really good. So try to understand the differences and respect them. Okay, and at times it's okay to agree to disagree. And next one is get the best of your team skills. So as I said, each one of your team members is going to be having a different skill set: a designer, a developer, a project manager, and a quality assurance person. Okay, so so work with the team, share your goals, and get the most of them. So they're going to contribute a lot in terms of their own skill set rather than putting or adding a lot of value to your kind of work. So let them do the work that they do the best. Okay, and the next point is be students together. So while working with the startups, most of the founders that I've worked with, they do really have a vision. They do really have the intention to make a world a better place, and also bring in a change that's going to affect a number of users for a good cause. So they bring in a lot of domain knowledge. They bring in a lot of market research to us. Okay, and that's what we are learning from them. Now, coming to us as a technical team, we are going to share a lot of technical details with them, where they'll be learning a lot about the technology, a lot about the feasibility checks that we do, and a lot about different options that you can implement to get one particular implementation done. Now, so it's important that you learn as a non-tech founder about the technology, and your team keeps learning more about the domain. So it's vice versa. So moving on to the next point, have your team contribute to the refinement of ideas and approaches. Now that you have set it, like the different skill set that the team is made of, so each one of your team members, tech team members, will be really willing to help with you on the product. So go ahead and share all your thoughts and visions and goals. Okay. As a startup, it begins with a minimal idea where you would like to solve a problem or resolve a pain point. But again, going forward, there are so many market opportunities, there are so many market trends that you tend to move forward and you start changing the direction. Okay. But again, it's important to share that information with the team and start discussing with them on checking the feasibility, on checking if there are any other competitors in the market who are doing much better than this, and what else can we do to provide a better value for the end user. So it's not important that they drive the business goals. It's you who will be driving the business goals, but again, giving them an insight on what the business goals would look like in near future will help them start focusing on their domains, what can be done in that particular area. For suppose example, if you're working on an e-commerce application, okay, and you say that you would like to go ahead and start payments, start implementing the payments in your application, then you might want to discuss with the team. And you never know, the designer is going to bring up a new design that's new to the industry, which is easy to learn and great for the user experience. But again, for the development team, they might go ahead and find the uh, libraries or the payment gateways which are easy to implement, cost you less, and make a hassle-free user experience for the user as well for making the payments, and also uh, refund process. Okay. So discuss with your team on all the changes that you would like to go ahead and do in the near future, ideas and goals that you have in terms of business, and the way you want to mold your startup so that they can refine the ideas and get back to you with the possible approaches and very efficient way to get it done. So this brings us, this is end of the current topic, and we'll be moving to the next one, which is learning the important metrics to measure. So as a startup, it's really important that you capture the right metrics so that you can show the difference on what impact your startup product has made in the lives of the end user, and how aggressive it is making it changes. Okay. So it's important for this, it's important to capture the right data. Make sure you're capturing all the required data, but not the sensitive information that's related to the user. But again, capture the right data that shows the trend on how the user behavior is changing, or how user is actually using the application, highlighting the areas where user is spending a lot of time, highlight the areas where user thinks uh, a lot of work during their engagement with the platform is being done. So once you start capturing these data of after a particular period of time, maybe for every 3 months or 2 months or 6 months, you start measuring your results on how you'd like to see the change in the user behavior, and what kind of enhancements or the updates that you have made, and how they are having an impact on the data that you're collecting. So once you have the result, it also leads you to uh, making some key decisions based on the trends that are being collected. So these trends will help you to make very subtle changes, but again, which might take your startup to a very new direction. Just to give you an example, first suppose if there's a startup that's working on providing on providing on providing best possible cost to buy anything online. Say for suppose eBay or anything, you can do an auction and things like that. But again, looking at the trends, looking at the analytics, if you start observing, you see that most of the users are using a mobile application to access your application, web application. Then it gives you a signal that most of the users are using the mobile app, and the web app is not the ideal one to load on a mobile browser. So it would be really interesting for you to explore an option where you can create a mobile solution where they can look at the different items that are available in the platform, and they can auction for that. So go ahead and start capturing the right data, matching the right details or the results, and then making the right decisions based on the trends. Now, with these trends, so you have all the changes that's being considered. Okay, so with these trends, it's really important to do the next point, which is project the change. So with each version update that you're doing, with each enhancement that you're implementing the platform, you can start ahead and start projecting your change, start projecting the change that these enhancements, changes, and updates have brought to the platform. Now, this will be really helpful to understand the direction and the trends that your startup is going through, and it will help the stakeholder and the team to understand more about the users from their feedback. Okay, so with this, our current topic is done. Okay, so in this we have understood about four key points that we have discussed today. One is research and validate your idea, then setting the ground rules for your team, and learning to capture the right analytics for your startup and build your visuals so that you can share your vision to the team and the world. Okay. So that's end of the topic. And so to tell more about us, we at Imaginnovate, we have started our organization working on mobile solutions, and so far we have worked with more than 50 startups. And startups have that we have worked with have generated more than 10 million in cumulative revenue. There are 10 high growth startups which are growing 100% year on year in terms of growing the user base and also incline on the revenues as well. There are 6 startups that we have worked so far who have raised each in $1 million in funding, okay, such as Blended Sense, Raftup, Angelive, BidOps. Okay. And some of our notable clients are Blended Sense, Angelive, YouEarned It, BidOps, Unitag, Calypso, AutoThink, Believe Nutrition, and more. This it's been so we did so it's been more than a decade that we have been working with the startups. Okay, and this has left us realizing that we have contributed for 6 verticals, to be specific, mostly working on engagement with these 50 startups, which are media tech, medtech, edtech, e-commerce, lifestyle, and mobility. Okay, so we do specialize. So we do understand the domain knowledge for these for these particular verticals, and we do specialize on working with the startups that are related to these verticals. So in terms of technology capabilities, we work on an overall. So we work with web technologies, both front end and back end. Front end includes React, Angular, and React, Angular. Back end includes Ruby on Rails, Java, and ASP.NET. So we also work with the Google services, cloud services such as AWS, Google Cloud Platform, and we work on mobile applications, React Native, and Flutter on the hybrid technologies, iOS and Android on the native technologies. So how does our engagement with startups happen? So we engage with startups on our different trends. Like the first one is the tech analysis. We do a 2 hours review of your startup and we get back to you with a detailed review of your startup so that you can go ahead and look at the technical details and get back to us if you have any queries. Then the next type of service that we do is discovery session, where we do a deep dive into learning more about your vision, more about your goals, and then we come up with a technology strategy, a development roadmap, and an implementation plan. So the kind of development engagement that we have with the startups is developing a prototype, working on pilot versions, working on minimum viable products, and working on projects that can be fixed price and also time and material. We also work with the startups who already have an internal team, technology team, and also who are working with other vendors for technology services. So we be a part of those. We be part of your team and start working with you. And the next kind of services that we provide is technology consulting, which we do at a regular period of times for every 3 months, where we look at the infrastructure and the technology aspects of your startup and get back to you with a quick feedback. So that's all right. So that's all about things that you should know as a non-tech founder running a tech startup.
It's awesome. Woo! Loved it. I have a few points in here that I really loved. Be students together. That just hit home for me, because it's as a startup founder, you can be a little stubborn at times, or maybe it's prideful. I don't know. Maybe it's that you're fearful because you don't know what you're being asked. There's lots of emotions that happen when you're a founder, but I love that one point you've made of be students together. And I think that's just so important to remember that you're both kind of learning together at the same time. It's not necessarily one answer or the other. It's discovering and using data to help drive you in the next direction. I also love that you said that it's so important to understand the initial goal, but also what's the end game? What's the final goal? What are you really, really envisioning or wanting this to achieve? And if you don't know that, that's okay. That's the discovery part, right?
Yeah.
But I love that kind of that knowing your principles and understanding your organization as a core before even trying to move into this. Like, those are things I believe people miss.
So our engagement with startups is really exciting because of many reasons, but those do top at the most. Because with each startup that we work, there's a new kind of innovation that they are bringing into the picture. So there's always a new problem to solve. There's always a new change to be made. So that's what startups bring in. But again, there's a different flavor with each startup. They do not ever get compared to the existing solutions. They are always unique and innovative. So it's really important. It really excites me to work with the founders to learn what was the origin of this startup idea, and it will really blow your mind the way it comes out. Sometimes it's a conversation at a table having a coffee. Sometimes it's a conversation that you would like to have in your community and you would like to fix a problem. So that's really exciting, and it's really inspiring for the team as well that's working with you. So that's cool.
Yeah, I really like that. So you mentioned earlier a few tools that I'd like to go back to if we can. Tools to create user flows, and then tools to create wireframes. I wrote one down for everyone, like Product.io. Was there any others that you might suggest that they can use to help create their user flows or their wireframes? Because some don't even know what that means. So
I get it, but again, you can start with simple tools such as PowerPoint. Even that's helpful. You do have flowcharts in that as well. People may not look at that, but again, that's a part of PowerPoint. You can start with that, and you can also use a platform called Whimsical, which is really helpful to use. And you do have a mind map in Whimsical, which will help you locate and map the ideas. Okay. So that's really exciting.
That's cool. We actually have a question. I'm going to pop this up, which everyone, questions are welcome. So now's the time. Here we go. Is it good for startups to replace old technologies with new technologies for the product already in use?
So it totally depends on what you're trying to do there. Okay. So most of these startups, they do have a phase where they do this. Okay. They don't do that in the early stages. Okay. Because that's going to cost a lot of money and the development effort. So they don't swap the technologies initially. But again, once you're done with the MVP and you do a couple of phases, and that takes you to a product market fit. That's when you start earning the money, establishing your product, and doing the growth. Now, once a startup grows more, and starts getting to the end stage, getting mature, and planning for an IPO and an exit, or planning for an expansion, that's when they do that, because the audit is important and they focus more on getting things done. Okay.
Good.
I hope that answers the question.
Well, and also at the same time, like some of these questions you can only answer so far because it all depends on variables of tech and what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's always variables in technology.
And that's way too costly because you have done a lot of development in the past. Okay, so you need to keep that in mind. And there are times when you'd like to consider a partly updation as well. Okay, so your front end technology is obsolete, but the front end is really doing good. You might want to swap the back end technology, but the front end can stay. Okay, so things like that can also be considered.
That's a really good point. Okay, well, everyone, questions are welcome. I actually have one of my own. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about recruiting technical collaborators. So you talked about building the team and that they all might have different skill sets. What are the core skill sets that you're looking for when you're looking for a technical team? Now, I know this really depends on your goal and vision as well, but are there core sets of things that you're looking for, or people that you're looking for to fill positions when you're ready to build your team?
Got it. I'll answer that in two parts. One, if you have an established team, okay, then you might only go ahead and start looking for the technology skills that you need, because you already have a technology team that can fill in the details, even if the technical person that you're trying to have does not have a knowledge on the domain. Okay, but again, when you're trying to start early, this is your first technology person that you're trying to have, it's always a good choice to go ahead with a person who knows about the domain and also the technology that you might work. Okay, because the technologies also depend on the type of domain that you're working on. First, suppose if you're working towards providing a solution for the startups, then that's fine. Or if you're providing a solution for the end users or the retail customers, they're totally fine with the technology, whatever you provide. But again, they are precise on the user experience. Okay. But again, if you're focusing more on domains such as logistics or any other mature, and you're trying to target the enterprises, they are keen on the kind of technologies that you're putting together and the approaches that you're following. So that will be really helpful if the person also has domain knowledge and he's the first one to be on your team.
Excellent, thank you. That actually does help. I have a few other, you know, as you're growing and you're building, you get a lot of questions as we mentor startups. So I'd like to be able to give them answers. So I'm learning with you. So I have another question actually. So you talked about creating user personas, and some understand what that means and how to do that. Some have no idea what that means. Can you give us a little bit of how someone would start to creating a user persona? So like what type of questions should they ask, or how do they even realize who they should be asking? Is it go survey 100 people? Like any insights you can give our startups into that would be helpful.
Got it. So it will be really helpful if you can start identifying the stakeholders who will be impacted by getting this change into the startup. Like first, suppose if you're trying to solve a product, if you're trying to bring in a product that's going to get nutrition to your home directly, okay, And then you need to talk to the people who are really require this. Okay, and on the other end, you need to talk to the restaurants who are going to produce that for you, because you cannot produce that for the entire country at once. So you need to collaborate with the people who produce that, and also people who would like to receive your product. Okay, so the first point will be to identify all the stakeholders in the game, start working with them, start understanding their pain points, and what's wrong with the existing solutions might be really interesting to consider.
So a
So
little
when
bit
you,
of competitive
yeah,
analysis.
exactly. And thinking that everything you're trying to bring in the startup game is unique is totally fine. But again, when you validate that with the market, there might be some relevance with the existing solutions. So you might want to be cautious and do your research, okay, and start growing your product on those lines.
I can't stress that enough, to do your research. Google some people. Google some things. Like, you'd be surprised how many things pop up when you think, oh, I have a great idea. Well, so did 10 other people in this state alone. So, oh man, you hit the nail on the head with that one. I had one last question for you, and then I'm going to open it up to the floor. So, at what point in the process does a technical founder need to be thinking about user experience? So you talked about journey and mapping how we think that they should be using based off of our data. But at what point are you going back and reiterating that again and updating it?
Got it. So when you're trying to create the wireframes and building a product on your own, it's always good to start with getting the details first and start working on the wireframes. Okay, then look into solutions or the platforms that allow you to create a clickable prototype. Okay, now these prototypes will give you a similar experience. They don't do the actual functionality, but again, it will give you the feel like how the user is navigating between the screens. Okay, so once you start creating a prototype, start testing your idea with that prototype with all the type of users who are going to be using that. Uh, so for suppose if you are trying to create a platform for the creatives, start sharing that with different types of creatives, different types of details they would like to capture, and who is the beneficiary there. Like, is there a client involved? Then start sharing that particular prototype with the customer as well. Now, once you share this, you'll get a feedback like, this is not something that I'm expecting to do, and these are the details I want to fill in so that it makes relevance to my profile. This is what I want to showcase in my profile so that a customer would like my creative experience and pull me in for a project. So once you get the feedback on the prototype, that will be a great start to start the design.
Excellent. Thank you. So, wow, I had a question that just flew right out of there. It's based off something you said, and then I lost it. That happens to me sometimes because I'm thinking on lots of different things. But I really appreciated you coming on and being so informative and sharing some of your experiences with us. Like, we love your passion for startups. We love having you inside of the Media Tech Ventures community, especially as a mentor and supporter for some of our alumni. So I saw a few names on there. So thank you for that. But also for your continued appreciation for education. So it's important to ask questions and to have an open collaboration and forum and a community of people that feel like they can ask tech questions without feeling like they're stupid. Because you're not. There really aren't stupid questions. It's you're discovering.
Well, it goes both ways. Feeling stupid, it doesn't sound just like a non-tech founder kind of thing. Feeling stupid also makes sense for the tech team as well. Because if you bring in a picture with a new domain that you're trying to solve a product or bring in a change, okay, then the tech team is initially going to give you a question mark kind of face. But again, as you go on sharing the knowledge about the domain, knowledge about what you're trying to do there, they're going to learn more about it. So it goes both ways. So you should be a student together.
Excellent. Well, I want to invite everyone to join the Media Tech Ventures community. Satish has a profile there. Reach out to him. His presentation decks are going to be uploaded there so that you can access these later. And should you have any questions, you can message him directly. And please join us. This is a 5-part series, and this is only part 2. So we have 3 more episodes we're going to be doing. The next one will be on December 1st, where Satish will touch on the 5 technology mistakes every startup makes. And I'm actually really excited about that because I have stories. I have so many stories. Excellent. Well, thank you. I think we're good to go ahead and wrap up. I really appreciate it. Again, thank you so much to you and to the Imaginnovate team. And I can't wait for the next one on December 1st.
That's awesome. Thanks, Christian and Ahmed, for this. And I do thank MediaTek Ventures for the opportunity.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. See you next time.